Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc beef podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, with technologies increasing on farms every year, I'm joined by John Heslin, MSD, Market Access and Marketing Manager and part-time beef farmer, to get an insight into technologies that are worth considering on beef farms in advance of calving and breeding season. John, you're very welcome. Can you talk me through your farming system?
I'm farming in partnership with my father. We're farming about 100 acres of owned and rented land. We're both part-time, so that has plenty of challenges, of course, in terms of time. We've about 32 suckler cows. That's what we're due to calve this February. And we bring those calves through to beef or store, depending on the animal and how things are going. We also contract rear a number of heifers. We started that last year, so we're going into our second year of contract rearing and really just trying to maximize the output of the farm. And we got on quite well with the contract rearing in year one. So hopefully we can continue that. I listened to last week's podcast with Ronan Delaney, which was excellent. Ronan's a great advocate of Irish beef. And, you know, we try and do quite a similar approach here, we'll say, in terms of we'd like to try and keep it simple, but efficient. I've mentioned the part-time nature. But also I play quite a bit of football, so we plan our calving and our management around a lot of various different things. So we've mentioned work and football, but also the outside life that you have to live as well. Very much a family farm, in the sense that, as I said, in a partnership with my father for the last number of years in an official capacity anyway. But obviously my sisters step in when needed in my place. There could Breedi in particular could be often doing some of the jobs with Dad if I'm training or if I'm on the way to a match or things like that. My own partner then does a lot of feeding with me, so it's very much a nice family approach. And I have a niece and nephew that are very much on the scene now. Young little nephew just got a tractor for Christmas, a little toy tractor. Very, very young, of course. We have to adhere to farm safety, but he certainly feels like he'll be helping out in the next short little while. So that's our farming system, Catherine. And I said, very much trying to keep it simple as possible.
Great, John. And the fact that you're both working off farm and it's coming up on a busy period with cows calving, how has technology enabled you to manage labour on the farm?
Yeah, I suppose for us, technology really is a must. And of course, I am a little bit biased in the sense that the company I work with, we are involved in a lot of different technology of late. But for us, as I mentioned there, from a part-time nature, and also our various different commitments off farm, technology really helps us. But we're extremely thankful for it. You know, the first major kit or piece of technology we got on farm was the calving camera. And I suppose it really revolutionized our approach to calving. And at the time, I was actually living in Dublin, and I could be, my father would be in work, and I could be watching a calving unfold in Dublin or at a meeting or different. Well, obviously not during the meeting, but you'd be paying attention to it in that sense, and we could see if there was any difficulties occurring, or we'd obviously have to have someone nearby. Then, if my father was at work, to come in and intervene if possible, but we'd be trying to pick the bulls in such a manner. But as we all know in the farming world, that it never always goes to plan. But calving camera was the main piece of kit to help us from a technology perspective. And then obviously the technology that's in vaccines. So there's a lot of talk around vaccination of late with COVID, of course. But vaccines are a technology, and we'd use quite a number of vaccines in our cows and indeed our calves to prevent, we'll say, calf scour, calf pneumonia, and IBR, because we don't really have the time to be dealing with sick animals. But also there's the animal welfare piece, and we don't like to see sick animals, of course, and the whole efficiency and ensuring that they reach their weight targets and overall production targets. So we would have found that we're just about to vaccinate our cows against, we'll say, with a calf scour vaccine that will boost their colostrum for the calf. So when the calf suckles that first milk, that they'll receive antibodies against E. coli, rotavirus, and coronavirus, and that'll help us in terms of time and labour. Hopefully reducing the number of sick calves or limiting or null and void, shall we say, that we don't want to get any. So that would be a key technology. And then, of course, SenseHub, which the company I'm working with, MSD Animal Health, would currently sell. We purchased SenseHub last year was the first year we used it. And what SenseHub is, it's a heat and health monitoring tool for animals. So we would have an ear tag or a neck collar, and it monitors the movements of the cows. And basically, we put that on our cows just before the breeding season. So we started breeding on the 1st of May. So about 2 weeks before breeding, we put the system on. I'm sure my Twitter would give you more of an accurate date because I definitely documented it, but I can't remember the day offhand. But we put that on. The system got used to the animals, and essentially it was monitoring, we'll say, the movements of the animal, the overall activity, the eating, and the rumination. And from that, it can provide heat alerts and health alerts. So that was another key piece of technology that we installed on farm, and very, very much helped the labour input on farm from heat detection and indeed health perspective.
I suppose the fact you're using 100% AI and it's so difficult to detect cows in heat has been a big factor in being so successful with AI on the farm.
Yeah, so we would have traditionally, so I must mention as well that I am a previous Teagasc employee. Of course, I spent some time in the Dairy Patrick herd and also did my PhD in Teagasc Grange. And my PhD in Grange was around heifer puberty. So I had about 400 odd heifers go through my hands with a lot of help in Grange. But I spent a lot of time doing heat detection, literally standing in the field, recording heat events of heifers. And I had to take a lot of blood samples to coincide with that to identify the correct age of puberty, we'll say. So it's quite ironic that now I'm involved in a company that's selling a heat detection system. If I had that heat detection system during my PhD, it certainly would have helped, and I might have finished it a little bit earlier than I did. But in practice on our farm, where the suckler cows are during the summer, it's actually on an out farm. So obviously, both of us are working. Father lives on the farm. For him to come home from work and then go out to do heat detection, there's quite a labour input on that. And in truth, when we installed the system in 2021, my father didn't trust the system. Of course, that technology adoption or adaptation, it takes a little while. So for the first 4 or 5 cows, it was nearly a competition between my father and the system as to who would detect the animal in heat first. I'd often get a phone call to say that animal's going to come in heat now. You'll get an alert. So be ready for that, So eventually, anyway, after I think it was the 5th animal, my father, he said, I wouldn't have got that animal only for the system. So, it really helped us detect a number of different cows, but obviously that labor input, like, the recommendation is to do heat detection for 3 or 4 times a day for, 20 to 30 minutes at each time. So I can remember back to Grange when I had 6 to 8 different groups of animals and doing 20 to 30 minutes of heat detection at a time. You can see why there was plenty of help required. But look, we originally were 100% AI, as I said, back when I was in Grange. I was living at home and we were 100% AI. I moved away from the farm. We did get a bull at the time, a great bull. Then we actually ended up selling him last year, and just luckily enough, it coincided with getting the SenseHub system because we were bringing heifers from that bull back into the herd. And we made the decision to purchase SenseHub to help with our heat detection, and it enabled us to, as we all know, in terms of best practice, matching that bull, the correct bull with the cow. So it's been a huge saving from that aspect of it, and it's because it's recording movements of the animal every minute of the day. But you're not there; you're only doing your 20 and 30 minutes, and in truth, when you're working, you're really only getting the morning and the evening to have a look. If again, that takes a lot of effort. So SenseHub's monitoring every minute of the day and sending information back to the controller. So it's a Wi-Fi based system, and the controller would be above a shed in the yard. And where we're grazing our animals, it's in a bit of a U shape. So we actually just we have it on a pole that we can twist the controller to face the cows, so that the cows are always in range. And there's one particular paddock where the cows weren't in range. We actually moved the drinker so that they have to come to that drinker during the day that they're in that paddock, and the information sends straight back to the controller. And what it does then, it gives you an alert on your phone or a text message. So we have the system set up to give me a notification and my father a text message, because notifications now wouldn't be too common on his phone, nor would they be heard too much. But he'll look at a text message, so the both of us get it, and it allows us. So it'll give you have a 24 to 26 hour countdown, and there's a window in between of a 15-hour breeding window, when's the most optimum time for AI. So it allows us to plan, you'll know that evening or whether she's going to be on for the following morning. So it really around work and football and things like that, it really helps for our breeding.
And from a cost point of view, John, what does the system cost?
Yeah, so Catherine, you're probably asking the question that nearly everyone on the call is probably thinking in terms of how much it costs. And I suppose, of course, that's obviously the way everything has to be viewed. And I even go back to the calving camera. That was when we were installing the calving camera, we would have had that same viewpoint. Well, what does it cost? And at the time, we were like, okay, this is an investment, and any investment in truth on a beef farm is costly, because we all know that there's not loads of money floating around. The cash flow can be quite challenging. And that first year we installed the calving camera, I had a heifer and I had her in calf to Zag at the time. And I'll never forget, it was the most nail-biting TV, if you like, that I ever watched, because I was watching on the phone because I was away from the farm and my father was home pulling the calf from the heifer. And there was actually a period of time where the internet stalled, and if you ever didn't want your internet to stall, it's during calving, especially with a first calver. But he got her out, cow up, and everything went fine. And for us, that was the calving camera paid 10 times over. With SenseHub, the initial investment, what I viewed it, I actually did the sums on it there. For my 32 cows, the SenseHub was basically the cost of a weanling per year. And the reason I say it like that is because I actually lost a bullock on Stevens's day. Now, obviously, I didn't actually have SenseHub on the bullock. We are coming with a finishing system for beef where you can have SenseHub on the finishing animals, but I didn't have it on this bullock. And actually, to be honest, and I had COVID at the time, and of course I was able to go out to the farm to feed the animals, but I was a little bit under the weather that morning, and I saw the animal was, a little bit bloated, and I said, well, I'm sick here, and the animal's sick, and I said, look, that animal, he'll be okay in the morning. But little did I know that he might have been blocked for, maybe, well, I'd seen the previous morning, so it could have been 24 hours that he was blocked, because you're only looking at them really that one time during the day. So I lost that bullock, and I genuinely was kicking myself after the course. No one likes losing animals. But had I had SenseHub on that animal, I would have actually been able to see exactly when the rumination stopped, because it's monitoring the movements of the animal, monitoring the behaviors of the animal every minute of the day. So as I said, if, for example, if it was on one of my cows or one of my female animals, I would have been able to say, well, that animal hasn't been ruminating properly, we'll say, for the last 18 hours. I really need to intervene. And I'm sure there's plenty of people listening there that would have been in a similar situation where they see an animal that's, not too bad, maybe coming for a bit of a feed. I give them a little bit of time. I don't want to intervene where there doesn't need to be. But look, it was a lesson for us in that particular time. But it's about, we'll say, for the tag, you're talking in the range of 70 to 120 euro for the tag or the collar, depending on the system you pick. We have a heat and health system, Catherine. So not only does it give you heat alerts, but it gives you health alerts. And I would have received 4 different health alerts, if not 5 different health alerts throughout 2021. And we'd have a good healthy herd, as we'd like to think. And that animal that we lost was actually, we only lost 2 animals all of 2021. So less than a 1% mortality. So you kind of try and take the positives out of that. But we would have had 4 or 5 different health alerts. There was one particular heifer that stood out to me, that I was on the way home to synchronize the contract rearing heifers, was say the dairy stock, and I got a notification for the out farm to say that there's a sick heifer, and I went straight to the out farm then to see what was wrong. Only for I got that alert, I mightn't have actually been to the farm that day, because we were so busy with the synchronization, or at least I might have been there that evening. So I went out and I went out to look at them, and I ended up bringing them in, and she looked fine, to be honest. Like she was a typical animal, and in hindsight now I mightn't say this again, but she was a typical animal. Say, well, she looks okay. She's feeding a bit there. I'll see how she gets on. But I brought her in, and she had a temperature of 40 degrees, and we treated her with anti-inflammatories and some pain relief. And only for the system told me that she was off form, I mightn't have just acted as quickly. And that particular animal ended up cycling the next week. So it was just around the start of May, end of April, start of May, I think it was, when I was doing the synchronization. And she cycled the next week. But the key point there is, if I had left her, and it took her a couple of days to fight whatever she was fighting herself, she might have missed that first breeding target and then pushed her back out of the system when she was to receive her first AI. So we breed here 15 months to calve down to 24 months of age. And if she had missed that and pushed her back out later into the calving season, the following year, it would obviously with heifers, it takes them longer to cycle again after their first calving, or first calver, should I say, that she might have fallen out of the system down the line. So that particular health alert for me, I think was very advantageous from a whole production perspective, and definitely, from a labor input then for your heat detection, it's often a challenge for us to put some money on our own time, but in terms of saving from a heat detection perspective, Sensub would have paid for itself in year one alone, because we bred for 10 weeks in 2021, bred for 10 weeks, put 33 animals to AI, and 32 of them were in calf after the 10 weeks, with one set of twins. We scanned as well, so we're looking forward to that. So at the minute we're expecting 33 calves from our 32 cows. So it's really, it's really beneficial for us in 2021 for sure.
That's great, John, and it really gives an insight to the benefit of the heat detection technology alongside the health benefits. And I suppose there's a number of these technologies on the markets. Previously, we heard from Michael Fagan on the Newford demonstration farm how they were using new heat detection device in Athenry, and were very positive results from that. I suppose since the 1st of January, John, all new cattle tags that farmers are ordering are electronic EID tags, and from July, any calves that are born will have to be tagged with EID tags. But you've been using EID tags for the past 2 years. What made you decide to use electronic tags?
Yeah, so I suppose, again, just so people are aware of a potential conflict of interest, our company, MSD Animal Health, would now be responsible for the Allflex brand of the tag that's sold through Mullingar. And indeed, I would have always purchased my tags from Mullingar, but we would have purchased the EID tags for the first time, I think it was 2 years ago, when there started being a little bit of information. And again, actually, it must be worth saying that MSD didn't own the brand at the time, but I purchased my tags from Mullingar, the EID tag, and it was purely on the basis of we knew it was coming down the line in terms of the EID piece. But I mentioned earlier on, Catherine, in terms of trying to keep things as simple as possible. And any way that we can reduce any labor input or correct animal identification, for example, is money well spent from our perspective. And I suppose on our farm as well, we would often weigh quite regularly, but with the introduction of the beep scheme, it's put more of a focus on weighing animals on farm. And once you kind of start and get into the habit of weighing animals, it nearly becomes an addiction in itself, that you get to see what animals are performing or those that are underperforming. And weighing animals has allowed us to maybe treat animals for worms based on their weight, for example. If there's a particular animal that's underperforming, do they need a treatment, or do you do a fecal egg sample and send them off and get some analysis there? So it's really, weighing has allowed us to really optimize and maximize that performance and productivity on farm, and I think it's going to become more and more crucial for beef farmers in the future. But it's all about identifying that animal, and indeed using your vaccines as well, so that you're able to. And we all know Teagasc can get very dirty. I know even from the PhD, and I give a special shout out to this guy, because anyone who's been in Grange would have come across this Grange legend, would be Frank Smith. Frank Smith might as well have just been working in Grange to work on my PhD, identifying animals coming into the chute, because we used to blood sample animals twice a week, 160 animals twice a week, and Frank would identify the animal number and identify the tube that animal would be responsible for. So next time anyone can see Frank, they can say that they're after bringing out EID tags, because they couldn't replace him in Teagasc Grange. They had to bring out EID tags to fill his role. But there's various different benefits of EID, Catherine. I think that for me, in a very simple way, is that EID tags are a gateway to technology on farm. So we've talked about Sensub, which is a standalone technology outside of EID. But if you have, maybe not relevant to all beef farmers, but your calf feeder, your automatic calf feeder will be driven off your EID tag. In a dairy farm, your feed to yield, for example, a lot of your milking parlour technology, some drafting gates will be driven off your EID gate. But for the beef farmer, it's very much around your recording. Any management practice where you have to know the animal number, it just saves a lot of time and effort that you can have your EID reader, your wand reader. You can scan the animal, and you can enter in the information into your farm management software, the various different softwares that are out there. And really, that's from our side, Catherine. But of course, there's many different benefits outside of the farm, whether that be bringing your animals to the factory, easy reading of the animals in the mart, so on and so forth. And I think from our side, and when we buy store lambs from time to time, I think the EID would definitely be a godsend from bringing lambs to the factory, because anyone who's brought lambs away knows the difficulties of trying to identify the correct animal number on sheep. So it's that's just kind of really why we would have gone with EID in the past. And now obviously this year EID has become mandatory in 2022. So any tags ordered from January 2022 will now have the EID tag, and it's a white EID tag. But I think that the thing that everyone has to realize as well is that they have until July to use their current stock of tags. So I'd still have maybe 10 or 11 tags from last year, and I have up until July to use those tags. But obviously I'll have to place my order for the rest of the calves fairly soon.
Looking to the year ahead, John, what new technologies can farmers expect to see come on the market?
Yeah, I suppose, look, in short, for the year ahead, Sense-Up beef definitely is going to be rolled out across a lot more farms. That we would have seen it in 2021. A lot of the focus would probably be 80% dairy farmers interested in Sense-Up, in terms of 20% of the beef farmers, will say, like an 80-20 from our side, who'd be interested. And I think that a lot of people from the part-time perspective, 50% of beef farmers are part-time, arguably growing. And it's any technology that can help or save labour on farm and time input. Ronan Delaney mentioned last week that he's not on the farm looking at those animals all day long. If there's anything that can save time, save money, of course, as well, and increase your farm performance and increase profitability, that's something that is worthwhile on any particular farm. And there's a lot of part-time farmers involved in our company, and a lot of beef farmers who will be looking for new technologies from our side to help the beef farmers. Is there a case of automated weighing scales, for example, like we see it with the BDGP and the benefits that's had, in terms of the weighing and the beef scheme, in terms of the weighing. So I think, look, in the future, I look forward to seeing an automated weighing scales that you're getting up-to-date information from your animals live with limited input. I think that would be a huge benefit for beef farms.
Thanks very much, John. We look forward to all these new technologies.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thanks for having me on, and best of luck.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to John for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.